We're now joined by Lebogang Motau, the CEO of the Free World Initiative. Lebogang, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Globe.
Good evening. I'd like to say it's a pleasure to join you, but unfortunately it's under very horrific circumstances, as it is always.
Indeed, indeed, very, very horrible circumstances because gender-based violence, Lebogang, no doubt is a very profound human rights violation with major social and developmental impacts for survivors of violence as well as their families, their communities and society more broadly. We've just heard President Cyril Ramaphosa talking about gender-based violence. So what's your analysis of how the government is dealing with this scourge?
You know, I have to say, as a female, it is sad that the only time they remember that gender-based violence is actually the true pandemic is when elections are coming by. And I think it is frustrating and it is angering a lot of women. How many times is our president going to apologize to these families who are losing loved ones and nothing gets done? We keep hearing these promises. There was a summit in 2018 where he promised 1.6 billion rands that was going to go into fighting gender-based violence, but us on the ground, the non-governmental organizations, the NPOs that are working on the ground have not seen this aid. But not only our police force has not been trained to deal with these crimes, our healthcare services are lacking in the ability to deal with these cases, and we're just seeing the same thing just over and over happening. 7 women are killed a day. If that is how big it is, this is bigger than COVID, this is bigger than anything else that is happening, why is there not more effort that is being put in to save the lives of women and children? That is our question.
And just picking up on that question, do you agree, though, that our response efforts to gender-based violence need to be boosted by augmented programming in policy development to gender-based violence? Because we know that an abuser is not born, but it is merely a personal choice, and it starts in the mind. So can these policy developmental dialogues help insofar as curbing gender-based violence?
What you're saying is absolutely true. No one is born an abuser. These abusers go through certain events or certain things that happen to them that changes their mental aspect of how they look at a woman. We do need systems in place to change toxic masculinity that is leading towards these violence that is happening towards women. That definitely needs to happen. This needs to start happening from a very young age, where we've got systems in place in schools that are teaching young boys that what masculinity is, what the correct form of masculinity is, how to deal with emotions just from the ground level, but also just working the way up, where we are correcting the current men's ideologies on what masculinity is, and also in the law enforcement, so that we have better systems in place when people are reporting these cases, how they can deal with the victim who comes in to report, how the healthcare services can better handle a person who's coming in and needs assistance after a rape. If all of these systems are put into place, and maybe we can increase the number of reporting that is happening, and also for the victim to feel that they are safe enough to report when these things happen, as well as conviction rates. We're currently sitting on an 8.6 of perpetrators that are convicted, and that is after only 1 in 9 reports. So the numbers are so low that it's demoralizing as a victim to actually stand up and go and report. So if all of these systems are put into place, I do think that would start changing what is happening in our society.
And what's even more demoralizing, Lebogang, is some of the long-standing cultural nuances that we experience, especially in the African family setting. You find that, a woman, before she leaves her home to a marital home, she's socialized into believing that whatever problems they encounter, she should stay. And a woman who is subjected to abuse in her family or in her home, ends up tolerating, well, I hate to use the word tolerating, but for lack of a better word, she ends up tolerating that amount of abuse for purposes of, keeping her family together. And she's staying for the kids, for the welfare of the kids. And this becomes a vicious cycle of gender-based violence as a result of these cultural nuances. So how do we dispel and dismantle some of these, nuances?
What you're saying is absolutely correct, Ngoba. Like you're saying, a woman is taught, a woman she tolerates, she sticks to it. Our grandmothers did it, our mothers not so much, but it was something that was taught. But also as young as preschool, we teach a young girl that if a boy is mean to you, if he pulls your hair, it's because he likes you. So that training starts long before even marriage. It starts from, like I'm saying, it starts as early as preschool, where we're teaching our daughters, our girls, that a guy who is mean to you is because he likes you. A guy who doesn't call you back straight away is because he likes you. I remember a young woman telling me personally that if he doesn't hit you, he doesn't like you. So we are socialized into believing that, and unfortunately it's this cycle. So as much as we need to re-educate men into understanding what masculinity is, we also need to teach ourselves as women when are the red flags, to identify the red flags. It is not okay for a man to think he can control what you wear, who you talk to, when and how. All of these are signs of abuse. I think the biggest issue is the fact that we don't fully understand what abuse is, what the different types of abuse are, so we do sit in it. And even as parents, when we are teaching our children, our girl child, how it is to interact with a male, because we've been socialized and modeled in a certain way, we're just teaching them what we know. So we as women also need to be re-educated about what it is to be loved and how it is to be shown love in a healthy and respectful way, so that we are not teaching our daughters the wrong thing when they get into relationships. And not only in relationships, because a lot of this violence is also happening within the home. It is domestic violence. So we also need to teach our daughters that what a brother can do to them, what a father can do to them, an uncle. And I think what you're saying also is we need to develop a culture of shunning the perpetrator. Most often, the responsibility is put on a woman to keep herself safe, but also to keep quiet when these things happen. You know, the rapist, Lomalume, is still invited to family gatherings. He never gets shunned, but the girl needs to keep quiet. You know, that cousin, we kind of protect them and shelter them, although they have hurt a member of the family. So as a unit, a family unit, as a culture, as a nation, we need to start making perpetrators responsible for their acts and make them actually serve the time that is needed after they've done these acts. A lot of people are not getting arrested. We keep walking past our perpetrators on a daily basis as victims, which also is, as you're saying, it's excruciating, and emotionally it just kills each victim inside. And also it also kills the other girl, because when they see something happening to them or their friends, they are unable to talk about it because they know nothing's going to happen.